A woman meets a strange man and finds out that he killed her father. Margaret Van Slitzman, who was in her early 50s, owned a publishing house in Toronto. Every day, people would give money to her publishing house, but one day, she got a gift that was supposed to be anonymous, but had a name on it by mistake. This man's one mistake made Margaret think back to when she was younger. She remembered clearly what happened on March 27, 1978, when she was a little girl. Her family was having a normal afternoon when her father went to a clothing store and told her to stay home because he used to work there. No one thought it would turn out to be so horrible. Even though it seemed like a normal business trip, it turned out to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience because he never came home again. Where was the father of Margaret? Why did he not come back? All of these thoughts went through her head. After some stressful hours, the police told Margaret's family that her father had been robbed in his store. As the robbers shot him, he would not live. The police were able to catch the murderer, and after his trial, the court gave him a 15-year prison sentence for the murder he had committed. When he got out of prison 15 years later, he gave money to a publishing house, which brought him back to his past and the terrible thing he had done. Even though he gave the money anonymously, he forgot to remove his name, so Margaret knew that he was the person who had killed her father. She was shocked to see his name because it took her back to painful and traumatic times in her family's life. But because of what Glenn did, things took a strange turn. No one ever thought Margaret and Glenn would ever talk to each other, let alone over email. What made Margaret email him? Was she ready to talk to the person who killed her father, or was it just a way to tell him how upset she and her whole family were? Most of us would think she wanted to talk to him about what a horrible person he was. But Margaret sent him an email. That's how they started talking. After a few emails back and forth, they decided to meet in person and talk. Many people thought Margaret wasn't being fair when she decided to meet the man who had killed her father. They thought she would never see his face again because he had hurt her entire family. Margaret herself said that fateful day was a living nightmare when she thought back on it, but she still wanted to see who had done it. As soon as she saw Glenn, the man who had killed her dad, she couldn't stop crying. They hugged, and Margaret couldn't stop crying. She said that she thought her dad's memory should be honored, and that she should do this by working for justice instead of blaming the murderer, who had already paid for his actions. After 15 years in prison, Glenn had learned how bad what he did was, and had also paid for it. So Glenn and Margaret worked together to spread information about restorative justice. Restorative justice was based on both the murderers and the people who were killed. She thought that working for justice was the only way to bring peace to her life and to honor her father. Many of us think that you can never forget or forgive a criminal, especially if they killed someone you cared about. But Margaret's actions show that after a person realizes their mistake and pays for it, that they can always work to make things better for everyone else. The only way for society to move towards peace is if everyone learns to forgive.